What's up, YouTube? It's DB, and today we're going to be playing some more BedWars, and I'm going to be going through a bunch of tips for how to improve your game in BedWars, because a lot of these things people don't know, and so we're going to be talking about things like types of bridging, so different methods of bridging, some tactics for getting into bases, so if someone's turtling, how do you handle a turtle situation, the different types of rushes, so glass cannon approach. So I'll be going through a couple of different approaches for rushes, and a bunch of other tips that I'm hoping will actually sharpen your game and help you get some more wins. But before I begin, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, let's go and get into this. So the first thing we're going to cover is bed defenses. And the reason why we want to talk about bed defenses is obvious. You want to slow down the enemy from taking your bed. So what you want to do is, initially with your 8s, you do want to actually go out and at least do some initial, just in case someone rushes very fast. You do want to just set up just a little, block it out like this. So the first thing you're going to do, a lot of people actually start with wood. What you want to do is you want to start with stone, and that's going to really slow them down. So it's going to take a little bit, but not too much. And what you want to do is you want to get rid of all this here prior, okay? So, don't undo your entire defense just in case they do rush you. Like, do only a couple at a time, because if they rush you and you've got your entire bed exposed, that's a bad idea. You just did the job for them. The other thing I would say is while you're working on your bed, make sure you're keeping an eye on, your bridge at all times. Don't do this. This is the worst thing. I see people do that all the time. They can't even see that the enemy's coming, and they're getting rushed, and then they get, stabbed in the back, and that's a big problem. And so what you're going to do, you're just going to basically surround this thing just like this. And, you don't have to do like the perfect shape. I actually believe you shouldn't do perfect shaped beds. A lot of people stack them perfectly. The problem is you can actually mess with people if you actually shape them kind of weirdly. So if you do like the perfect shape, they know exactly where the bed is because based on your shape that you actually did the bed, right? So if you did the typical kind of stack where it's like 2 and it's almost like a pyramid, you basically tell them it's right there. So I actually like to kind of go wide too. I've actually been juked so many times by people with that. So what'll happen is you can do something like this, right? So you definitely want to, surround everything with wood. So initially, surround it all and make sure you cover every single bit of that stone with some wood. And what's going to happen is as soon as the enemy team sees your bed completely covered like this, they're going to be like, nah, I don't have the tools, I don't have the time. They're going to go after other people first. So we're going to get this right here. We're going to cover up all of this stone here like that. And then we're going to bring this out a little bit more like this. So then what you do is you actually set up a fake bed over here. So you make it a really big shape and they don't know where the middle of the bed is. So if you make it look like it's right here, they don't know where it's at. Now, a perfect square, if you had a lot more blocks, you can make this a giant square. It makes it a giant maze. It makes it really confusing. What's even more confusing is, especially on this map, is if you go over here, you can actually go down this layer right here and make a bed. And so you do something like this and they start going on, and then they start basically digging right here, thinking your bed's down here because they don't realize it's double layered. And they run into this wall, dude. It is so funny. I've done that so many times on accident as well when I'm because you're so busy trying to get their bed that you don't even think about where you're at, that you don't realize you're at the bottom level. So it's a pretty good defense right here. That's pretty solid. So they got to go through there. They don't realize there's, heavier stuff under there. Then they realize they have to get an axe, and then they have to get a pickaxe. So that is the way I like to do that. It is, in my opinion, one of the best defenses for your bed, especially without having to spend too much. Now, the next thing we're going to go over is how to bridge, okay? So, well, it looks like we won that round before I could even give you the next step. So we're going to go through another round, and I'm going to show you how to bridge. There's different types of bridges. All right, so this next section here is to talk about different types of bridges, because there's lots of different types of bridges. I'm going to show you a couple here. So this is the most common bridge, and this is also the worst kind of bridge you can do. A couple of reasons. One is it's completely solid. There's no gaps, right? So no gaps here, especially problematic right here, because when you actually try to knock someone, they land on this bridge, and it's really unique to this map. This map's kind of like that. But if you're going to do something like this, what you want to do is you do want to leave some gaps right here to protect yourself, and right here like that. And even better if you do something like this. So let me show you something else. So even better if you do something like this. So you basically go like that, and then you unlock this section here and block that. Leave a gap right there. So that is actually a nice gap because they have to jump, and while they're jumping towards you, they're going to fall. See that? See how I just fell? So that is an excellent bridge, because people jumping over here trying to attack you, it's going to be problematic, right? So they can't really do that jump. That's a hard jump. to make. See, they're going to do that. Now, the one thing you're going to notice on this map in particular, what players like to do is they don't care about jumping up there. They don't want to jump up there. What they'll do is they'll jump right here. They'll go in this view and they'll basically axe your bed. So you think they're down here, you can't even see them. This is actually a really great way to break stuff. It's like this, right? So that is how they do it, and then they just break it right there. So if you see them drop down here, you need to knock them fast. But the problem is you can't really get them too quickly, right? Because they're right here. So what are you going to do? You're going to drop down there and you're going to start hitting them, and it's too late. It's too late. So that's why you'll typically see someone that rushes. They're going to actually jump right here, and then they're going to pick that out. Again, that's the worst type of bridge you can do. It's just a straight one. What I like to do though is if you're going to do a bridge for your base, there's two different types of bridges I would highly recommend. So one is the sideways one. So let me show you this. It's not really sideways, it's diagonal. And the reason why I like this is you can actually knock people more. So you could basically go something like this, you go out like that, and then you go sideways like this. And the reason why is you want to be able to knock people coming into your base. So you basically get rid of this. So you're forcing them not to be able to go straight. And what happens is when they're coming, you can actually knock them, because what happens is if you got a bow, right, unless you're like right here, this is actually a good spot too. If it's a straight, it's fine, you know, especially if they straight across right here, then you can still knock them this way. But if you're standing right here on your base, look at, I've got so much time I can actually knock him. It's a perfect angle right here. I can knock him like this way because they have to go kind of diagonal. So I would actually highly recommend, if you're going to bridge, like if you have time. Now rushes, you don't typically have time to do that. If you're rushing, you're going to do a straight across bridge, but after you kind of want to do a diagonal bridge if you can, because typically what will happen is people just rely on straight bridges. And this map's a little different because it's a really wide area, right? So you got a really nice area here you can actually do wide, which is really nice. Now this is kind of just a trap, right? Because a lot of players just don't want to bridge. They don't really want to have to make one. You know, when they're attacking you, they're going to pretty much use the existing bridges here. So in this case, for your exit, what you could do is you can go up like this. The team already won. They already won, dude. They're too good. So, you know, I'm going to show you the other types of bridges here. So this is actually what a bridge I would highly recommend you do. You can always correct it later. If you're going to rush, maybe you just kind of have someone else, you know, correct it later. But what I would recommend is, see how they just went straight across? It is a really convenient thing to do. And the reason why you want to do that is just easy to, you know, get across, right? You can basically speed run all the way across super fast. I just saw my teammate just drop. That's funny. So basically what we're going to do instead of what they did, instead of going straight across, because this basically gives them a straight bridge, right? Some newbie can come over here, come across, and you're going to have to be dealing with them all day. However, if you didn't do that, what if you did something like this instead? And then you go up again. And that is the perfect bridge right there. Because what's going to happen is if I were an enemy coming over here, I'd be like, you know, they would have to come up here. Now, it's better, by the way, it's better if this is actually a little further back. So you do have to kind of jump off of it. But otherwise, they got to have a bunch of blocks, right? So even better if it's taller too. So they got to spin their blocks to get up here. And if they do, they're so vulnerable because you can see them coming, right? Super easy to see them coming. I'm just going to leave this here for the team. But you can see this is the better bridge. And it does take longer, like I said, not so good for rushes. If you're gonna do just like a normal, like maybe you're just kind of grinding or something, this is the better bridge to take. Now let's talk about a few things related to bridging. So see this up here, this is what I like to do. So for this map in particular, it's important. See this right here, you take a little step right here, you go up, and at any time it's a 2 block, you don't need the, you know, space. But this is exactly what I would do, is what Divine just did. So you basically 2 block, and you got that space, 1 block here. And then this is the best place, especially for this map. You can actually go and farm the emeralds from here. So you just do this, drop down, put one right here, and then you can go diagonal. You don't need a huge path. A lot of people, you'll see them making these little bridges in between these, but you don't need to do that. So again, perfect little jump pad here. And you can see you don't even need that step up that he did earlier. You can just do this. So you grab this. As long as it's a 2 block, you can jump it. Come over to this side, do this diagonal. So you can pretty much farm these the entire time. We already got 4. So some other tips for bridging. So see that right there? See that team over there? So what I like to do sometimes, I like to bridge straight across. So if you're on a roll, if you're on a big roll here, with this map in particular, it's super easy. And so don't worry about these little islands in between. You just need lots and lots of blocks. So I do this often actually in my runs. So you can see, as long as you have like, I think it's about like 90, yeah, 96. So we can actually do something like this. So you go in this corner, and the key here, I like to do bridging in first person mode like this. So you can see a lot of people actually do this, and you see that they're a little slower. Some people bridge this way. I actually think this is the fastest way because you can get like your mouse kind of off like this. And I like to go completely diagonal like this. So just make sure see how it's perfectly diagonal and you save so many blocks. Sometimes, you'll actually accidentally place a block to the right every now and then. It's just natural based on, just slight orientation movements with your mouse and camera. Just correct it if it keeps happening. And you can see we just made it all the way across with 96. The nice thing about this is if an enemy decides to go on this, it's easy to knock them too. So you can see someone coming a mile away, and it's just a great way to do it. We're going to do it again, but with this team over here. So we just need a little bit more iron. It's just for an example. I don't really care if I get killed. So this is green, right? So green's pretty much dead anyway for the most part. So we're just going to kind of bridge all the way over to them just for kicks. And so you can pretty much click really fast. Some people use auto clickers. I'm not a fan of using auto clickers in games. I just feel I'm not judging. If you want to use an auto clicker, go for it. I don't really care. But I think it's kind of cheese and cheap. Dude, that guy just got ragdolled. That guy just got ragdolled. So I'll show you a couple more scenarios here with the bridging just so you can understand some other techniques. All right, so this next tip I actually showed in a separate video here, but I'm going to show it real quick. So you basically have a scenario where maybe someone's like, trying to hit you or knock you off. Like they're right here, right? And you're trying to bridge across and they're just sitting there swinging their sword at you. What you need to do in order to be able to counter that so you don't get knocked off, you need to go up. So you need to go above them. And it's often kind of, silly because we do actually go and like think we can actually take them on an equal playing ground here. So in that scenario, I'm going to actually show you real quick. We're going to go over here and I'm going to do it in real time here. Unfortunately, it looks like green just got destroyed. So never mind. Let me go do it over here. All right. In a scenario like this, you're coming across and this guy's like, oh, I'm going to knock you off. Just go straight up and then you go over them. Okay. Now I did kind of use some of my blocks for this. So I kind of need to take some away. But in that scenario, yeah, you just basically jump over, and hit them off this way. All right. So in a scenario that you're getting shot at, so a couple things. One is if they're actually shooting straight at you while you're on a bridge, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Just keep crossing. I mean, the worst they can do is knock you backwards on that bridge. What you could do is you can actually like block it with a block temporarily if you need to. But for the most part, you're going to be fine. Now, in a scenario that you're sideways to them, you got to get out that bridge fast. You're pretty much going to get knocked. For the most part, you're going to get knocked because there's not much you can do to counter that. Okay. So in a scenario where you're kind of sideways, you just got to hope they have bad aim because I can knock anyone on a sideways bridge. So you see they've got bows. So this guy, my teammate's getting knocked a bit. But it's straight on. So he only got knocked backwards. The other thing you do, what I typically do if I'm getting shot at while I'm on a bridge, I will shoot back with a bow. And that works really well. Generally speaking, that solves everything for me. If I'm crossing a bridge and I see them, I just shoot them back and then they kind of get surprised by that and they kind of run. So it works really, really well. Now, the one type of bridge you're never going to want to make is one that's too low from the bed. So I do this a lot, unfortunately, and it's just a bad habit, but you're going to be most vulnerable being lower to the enemy. So if your bridge is lower than the actual bed or the level, they're basically just going to pop you off because they've got the upper hand. I mean, you want to be higher up because you're trying to knock them from below. You're just going to kick them back for like half a second. You're already dead. You're pretty much already gone. So let's talk about the different types of rushes. I'm actually doing one rush right now with this team. And you can see we're actually coming in low on this, unfortunately. So you can see he's having to step up because it's so low. So let's go get this out. So we just took out their bed. And this is a focused glass cannon approach. So what I call this rush that we just did is a glass cannon. And what that means is we just left our base completely vulnerable to the enemy, right? Super high risk, super, super high risk. And this is how I typically lose. So that's a glass cannon approach. We leave our base behind and everyone goes with, right? It's a full on, full throttle. 100% of the team is going, right? So it's not like, okay, we're leaving one defender back. It's not like we're splitting our rush. No, everyone goes the same bed. Everyone goes in at once. And it works really, really well. In fact, it's probably my favorite strategy in the game. You do lose some games and, but it's not very often, okay? So you're gonna win the most games with this glass cannon approach, in my opinion, until you start getting into like higher ranked. If they add ranked mode, you won't be able to do glass cannons that often unless someone doesn't really know what they're doing and maybe get lucky and get placed with some lesser skilled players. But someone that sees you doing a glass cannon approach, the counter is obvious, right? The counter is they're gonna take you out. They're gonna go to your base while you're, going after someone else. So one of the other teams is gonna take you out while while you're trying to take out another team. And that's the proper way to do it. Now, the second type of strategy is going to be diamond strategy. So the diamond strategy basically means diamond rush. It doesn't matter how you're rushing, but you basically, instead of doing this, what we're doing, we're straight across, you go through diamond islands. And diamond islands are typically on the sides. It's not all the time, especially with duos or doubles. It doesn't mean it's always like that, but they're often like that. So what you want to do is you basically, instead of bridging straight across and making your base vulnerable, you're going to go through diamonds. So the next type of rush is going to be a split approach. So this is actually a three-pronged approach where you're attacking 3 bases at once. So 2 of you are actually to go for 1 base, and usually the hardest base, right? They're going to be the hardest. And the other 2 are splitting. And typically what happens, you might actually get something that looks like this, and it's actually happened quite often in my games. So again, there's the glass cannon where, if you say glass cannon in chat, then everyone knows everyone's going together, and you're pretty much going to target a single threat, right? So typically you're going to go and hit left. That's just typical. Now, I like to change that up every now and then, because if you're always going left, then they're going to know, okay, these guys are going left. And so that team over there is going to go left, and you're basically, everyone's attacking left. Now, if you were actually smart about it, you would actually attack right, because if they're going to attack you because you're on the left side, then they're going to be shocked that you actually took them out. Now we're going to go ahead and attack together. So we're going to go and rush these guys. You see my team's actually going right, and that's actually really smart. So by going right, it's actually pretty interesting because, they don't actually expect to be rushed. Typically speaking, they're going to rush you. So let's get this person, wait for him to go in. We took out green. So it's a successful rush. We hit everyone. We broke everyone's beds. Then you got the diamond rush, and then you got the safety rush. Diamond rush is how you're basically going to rush to the diamonds. Safety is basically one person stays back and defends while the other 3 actually attack. And however you want to do that rush is pretty much flexible. Basically how it works is, you kind of just wing it. Either the 3 are going to focus a particular group, or they're going to split it off, however they want to do it. But the nice thing about having a single defender back at base is that there's no chance for anyone to ever, take your base for the most part. All right, next up is to talk about how to handle turtlers. And if you've played this game a little bit, you've probably experienced some turtling. It's just super common, and a lot of people don't actually know how to counter it. So some people just I don't really know what to do. Then they just turtle in kind, right? You just kind of wait for everyone, camps it out and waits for someone else to make the move. And so it turns into these really, really long games. Again, what a turtler is just like a turtle, right? This concept's been around for a long time. Turtling basically means when someone doesn't want to come out of their shell. So they're going to wall up, and they're going to make it impossible for you to get to their base, right? So how do you handle that? Well, sitting there, and shooting arrows at them might be fun, right? So it might be fun to just sit there and keep shooting at them and knocking them over and over, but that's not going to help you take their bed. So what I like to do is I actually like to TNT them, and a lot of people can do this. There's 2 methods for breaking a turtler. One is you pearl in constantly with TNT, and that does actually work. So you can actually keep TNTing them, and typically TNT, when you drop, TNT into them, they're going to, typically get knocked off, or they're going to just be surprised and they run away from the TNT. They don't want to stand on it. If they do stand on it, they're going to get launched. So, TNT is a great way to do it. Pearling in is a really great way to do it too, because you're surprising them. So especially if you're geared up higher than them. So if you gear up, diamond gear or even emerald gear, which is kind of rough if you got up to emerald, but diamond gear will work pretty well, and you just TNT them. So outside of pearling in, which are kind of expensive because you do require emeralds, you can actually use a sky bridge, and that just requires a bunch of wool. So I like to do this often because it's really actually cheap to do. You can just stack up. You do need some TNT. You don't need any kind of emeralds for that. And to some degree, it's kind of fun too, because you can kind of launch it into their base. So, again, anyone that's truly turtled and walled in is pretty easy to take out. Just take your time with them. Make sure they're not leaving their base. You can corner them, then you're pretty much in good shape. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button and smash the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next vid. Peace.